You know the image, right? Brynhildr, the legendary Valkyrie, a warrior maiden descending from the heavens. But what if her story didn't actually start in Asgard? What if it started right here on Earth with a real historical woman? Today, we're going to dig into that incredible transformation from a Germanic seeress to a mythical icon. So let's just get right to the heart of it. Is the Valkyrie pure myth? Or is she actually rooted in the life of a real, powerful woman from history? Well, the answer, as it turns out, is this fascinating, really potent mix of both. So on one hand, you've got Veleda. She was a real seeress from a Germanic tribe, a staff bearer. And on the other, you've got Brynhildr, the mythical victory driver from the great sagas. History versus myth. Seems pretty clear, right? Well, that line between them, it's about to get real blurry. Our source material puts it perfectly. The historical seeress provides the flawless foundation for the Valkyrie of myth. She is the literal blueprint. So let's explore exactly how that foundation was laid, piece by powerful piece. Okay, to really get a handle on Brynhildr, we have to start with the real history. We need to step into the world of the Germanic prophetess. The actual term for these women was vulva, and it literally means staff bearer, which is so key. That staff, it wasn't just some accessory, it was a symbol of their immense authority and their ritual power. This wasn't just a title they held, it was their entire identity. And this role was huge. I mean, we are not talking about simple fortune tellers here. The Volur were political sovereigns. They lived apart from everyone else in these high, solitary towers, which helped them maintain a kind of divine perspective. But here's the most important part. Their foresight was considered a binding legislative force. Their prophecies were law, absolute law. Not even a king would dare to ignore what they said. Okay, so now that we see how powerful this real-world figure was, let's watch how she gets transformed into the myth of Brynhildr. This is that incredible moment where history becomes legend. And the parallels are just incredible. That isolated ivory tower of the historical seeress, in the myth, that becomes Brynhildr's enchanted shield castle sitting on top of Mount Hinderfell. And the Volva's prophecies that guided a single tribe, they get scaled way up, becoming cosmic prophecies that can literally shape the fate of the gods and the entire world. This is what our source calls the magnificent absurdity of it all. Mythology basically takes the very real, very tangible power of a tribal prophetess and just blows it up to a cosmic level, where her words can move not just a tribe, but the stars themselves. And get this, the connection even shows up in their tools. We have archaeological finds, things like the Horby Valkyrie figurine and these gold bracteates that show figures with a sword and a mead horn. The exact same tools used by both the real seeress and the mythical Valkyrie. The seeress had her victory charms, her Sigurgaldrar, while Brynhildr had her supernatural knowledge of runes. The symbols are a perfect match. And that mead horn wasn't for celebrating. The mead offering was a critical ritual. It was a shamanic drink that was believed to let the seeress actually see the threads of fate, what the Norse called word, before they were even woven. She wasn't guessing the future, she was seeing it, and through her authority, she was helping to shape it. But, this kind of power always comes with danger. And both history and myth show us the incredible price these women paid for their gift of sight. So the central problem, the thing that got them into trouble, was what our source calls their original sin. They knew a truth that fundamentally challenged the established male-dominated power structure. Their knowledge was a threat, plain and simple. And those in power really don't take kindly to threats. And again, the parallels are just stunning. The real-life Veleda was captured and paraded through Rome like a war trophy, her power completely silenced by an empire. And in the myth, Odin uses a sleep thorn to silence Brynhild for her defiance, trapping her in mortality. Two totally different stories, but exactly the same result. The powerful woman is brought down. So why were they silenced? It's because they shared this sovereign sense of justice. They used their visions to help the underdog, to question the powerful, and to basically break the primal law of the rulers. Their truth was simply too dangerous to be left unchecked. But this is where the story takes a fascinating turn. Because even in being silenced, even in tragedy, they find their ultimate victory. No, their story does not end with defeat, not even close. Just think about Brynhildr's tragic end. She's betrayed, and her life ends in total sorrow. But here's the thing. That wasn't a failure of her power. It was the ultimate proof of it. Her vision was terrifyingly accurate. She saw it all coming: the betrayal, the pain, even her own death. By seeing her own suffering and choosing to face it anyway, her tragedy becomes what the source calls a monument of integrity. That final ride to the underworld isn't about giving up. No, it's an act of pure, sovereign will, proving that her vision was intact, even when her heart was completely broken. So here you can really see the arc of her power. First, she states the prophecy. Then, she endures the betrayal that she knew was coming. Through it all, she proves her integrity. And finally, she embraces her fate on her own terms. This isn't a story about failure. It's a story about the triumph of her unbreakable will. So, when you put it all together, Brynhildr the Valkyrie is the literary apotheosis. She's the ultimate mythic version of that real-life Germanic prophetess. She's the grand evolution of that figure, where tribal wisdom gets transformed into epic, timeless drama. Her legacy is this incredible fusion. She is, as our source says, the burning threshold where shamanic sight meets heroic resolve. Because really, it's one thing to see what's coming. It's another thing entirely to have the courage to face it. Which leaves us with one final pretty heavy thought. The story of Veleda and Brynhildr is about the power and the profound danger of seeing the truth. And it makes you wonder, what do we do when we can see a future that the present just isn't ready for? That question is just as relevant today as it was 1,000 years ago.